Hello everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, John Cartwright, and I'm joined by the beautiful Ash Paulson. Hello, Ash.
Beautiful. Wow, that's the first time I think you called me that. I'm flattered.
You're radiant today. You're glowing, man.
Well, what can I say? I was told that I had a particular glow about me today, so I appreciate that.
Well, no worries, man. And you know what else has had a bit of a glow lately?
What's that?
Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz. It's had a HD remaster for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam. And you and I have been playing this game. So, Ash, we can talk about up until the first two worlds, and we can also talk about the demo, which consists of a level from the end of the game, a level from World 3 and a level from World 6, I believe. So we're kind of restricted. Oh, and the mini-games we can talk about as well.
Okay.
But I guess the real question is Ash, did you play the original Wii game, or is this your first experience with Banana Blitz?
No, I did. I played Banana Blitz on Wii. I still own my copy. So I did play quite a bit of it on Wii. I don't think I ever finished it, because even back then, I think I was like, man, I love Monkey Ball, but this doesn't feel like the Monkey Ball that I have learned to love. Like, it is, compared to Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, it is the safest, most vanilla, like, uninspired Monkey Ball game. And it's still, it's still Monkey Ball. So even bog standard Monkey Ball is still fun. But it's just when you compare it to the games that came before it, it's so hard to get really excited. And that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. It's like, I love the novelty of playing Monkey Ball on Switch, because I've been wanting Monkey Ball on Switch, right? I think we both have. But for some reason, they chose to remaster one of the least innovative, one of the least experimental games in the series. It's just the level designs are very standard. At least in the first two worlds, as we've been playing. And that's just kind of where I am. Like, it's a lot of fun, it looks great, but it's just like, it's just not, the game, the level design isn't there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is the game that kind of started the downfall of the series. Like, Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are some of the best games ever made. It's made by the same studio who did F-Zero GX. Like, Amusement Visions were just such a fantastic Sega studio. And then they kind of dissolved after the first two games. And Sega took on Banana Blitz. And like, if you had a chart of Monkey Ball quality, you'd have 1 and 2 just like right at the top of the chart, and then Banana Blitz would go way down. And it's not the worst game in the series. Like, Monkey Ball 3D is probably some of the worst level design Monkey Ball's ever had. But Banana Blitz is what got it on that track. It's what changed the approach to how you design Monkey Ball. So it's just so weird they went with this game. And I do quite often see the opinion of like, oh, it's better to remaster a bad game than it's better to remaster a good game because you can fix the faults. And yeah, that makes sense, but I'm not convinced they fixed these faults. Like, this is still Banana Blitz.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it looks great, and it sounds great. Like, I will say, the new coat of paint, the HD visuals, it's a beautiful looking game on both handheld and TV mode. I enjoy just looking at it and beholding it and experiencing the visuals and all the colors, and it's a bright, great looking game, but it still comes down to the level design, which is so safe. It's like they were scared or worried that the first two games were too difficult for people. So instead of, maybe trying to build in like accessibility features or maybe have multiple difficulty levels, they just doubled down on making it easier across the board. And it's just it just doesn't feel interesting to play. Like, all these level designs, especially in the first two worlds as you play through them, they're so, it's not that they can't be linear. Linear levels are fine, but they're not challenging. They don't have any meaningful pushback to them,
Yeah, not at all. The initial two Monkey Ball games, they had a very gradual difficulty curve where it would sort of get harder from level to level, whereas Banana Blitz gets harder from world to world. So you have like 9 different levels in one world, and they'll all be super easy. And then the difficulty slowly goes up into the next world. And so like you're sort of sludging through this game because it's just so easy for such a long time. And we can talk about this because, of course, it was released on the Wii. This is an old game.
Right.
This game doesn't really get hard until World 7 and World 8. And there are 8 core worlds in this game. There are a bonus World 9 and World 10, but that's only for, like, completionists. So, like, in the core game, most of the time, it's just going to be super, super easy. It might even be easier on the Switch because there's no motion controls in this version.
Right.
Like, it wasn't badly implemented in the Wii version, but it's just harder to navigate with motion controls than it is an analog stick. And now that you have more precision, you don't fall down as much. And the levels are still designed in a way that sort of accommodates for motion controls.
Right.
Like, you'll notice there's guide rails everywhere. There's like little, the edges kind of like prop up a bit so you don't fall off them. those were there for motion controls, but motion controls aren't in this version.
Right, which makes it even easier. I will say that at least there is, as you said, for completionists, like, there is that goal to get every banana in every level, which unlocks, you know, a bonus stage and an extra stage in each world, I think, which, you know, it is kind of the case, I guess, that when I went back to try to get some levels, or some banana, like all the bananas in some of the levels, it gets a little more challenging. Like, if you want to go for 100%, you're looking at, I think, a fairly decent challenge, but that didn't used to be the case in the original Monkey Ball games, where if you just wanted to play through the game, have a good time, you're still going to have a meaningful gameplay experience, whereas this one, it just feels like you're on autopilot most of the time.
It feels like the decision to remaster Banana Blitz was done just because it was probably the best-selling game in the series.
Yeah.
I bet some businessman was just looking at this chart and just saying, like, yeah, ignore those games. Banana Blitz sold like 3 million, 4 million, whatever it sold. Do that one. It doesn't feel like they really had a passion for this game. But I will say, the actual remaster itself is well done. I mean, you've said already, like, the game looks great. And there's this brilliant new lyrical piece on the main menu, which is just super cheesy, but it's so jolly.
Yeah, it's so jolly. And just in general, I mean, I think Banana Blitz was a good-looking game back on the Wii, even in standard definition. I remember thinking it looked pretty nice, but it looks really nice here. And the soundtrack is just, I was listening to it. I hadn't remembered the soundtrack for a while. I hadn't played it in a while, and I was just going back and listening to some of the music while playing Banana Blitz HD, around playing it, and God, this game had a fantastic soundtrack. And it's Hideki Naganuma who did Sonic Rush, and when you get to if you play the demo and you hear the Third World music, you will hear such clear Sonic Rush influences. It's so awesome. And yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Like, if you just want a great audiovisual experience just to kind of soak yourself in, it's fantastic. It's great for that. It's a very laid back, fun game to kind of just lose yourself into. But if you want kind of a meaningful gameplay experience, I think Banana Blitz HD still comes up a bit short, like it did back when it first came out.
I think they've changed quite a few things about how the game looks. I think the lighting engine's new because it runs on the Unity engine now rather than whatever Banana Blitz ran on originally. But I think a lot of the assets are more or less the same across the board. Like, I think the backgrounds, when you look at them, they are still kind of flat. That being said, though, if they made a brand new Monkey Ball game, I think I'll be completely fine with it looking like this. Like, this is a great style for the series.
No, it looks good without sacrificing any performance. Like, I've played both on TV and handheld mode for, you know, a decent amount of time now, and I haven't hit any hitches. Like, it is a solid 60 frames per second, and it doesn't feel as though you're sacrificing any visuals, because if you just look at the game, it looks really nice, and yet the performance is perfect. So I would be fine with a brand new Monkey Ball game that looks and runs exactly like this.
I do have some gripes though. Just Banana Blitz in and of itself. The boss battles are so out of place for a Monkey Ball game.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are super slow. Like, just waiting around, waiting for your boss to make a move, waiting for them to reveal their weak point. None of them are particularly exciting. They just kind of bring the pace down to a crawl.
Yeah, they're very formulaic. They very much feel like early 3D Sonic boss battles, where there's a clear pattern, and you kind of have, once you get used to it, you have to wait for the boss to go through its animations just so you can go ahead and do the next thing you already know you need to do. And it's just trial and error. It's just like these bosses take longer than they should. They're very formulaic. Their patterns are super easy to suss out, and I just feel like they didn't need to be in this game.
And a lot of them revolve around the jump button. And Ash, how do you feel about the jump button in Monkey Ball?
I mean, I don't think Monkey Ball ever needs jumping, and I didn't think it needed jumping back when Banana Blitz came out on Wii. But I will say I don't mind not having to flick up the Wii remote anymore. Like, I'm not anti-motion controls at all. I think they can be great when implemented well, and they were fine in Banana Blitz, but I don't mind just being able to press A to jump now. It's makes the game even easier, but it is a little more convenient, I would say.
I think my main problem is the first two Monkey Ball games revolved entirely around momentum and speed. And, like, jumping was just very situational. And it felt good to pull it off. Like, let's say you go up against an edge, you keep going back and forth, gaining up speed, and just fling yourself off and somehow survive by getting onto the edge below. That feels good. And in Banana Blitz, you can achieve that just by pressing a button.
Right.
And it takes a lot away from that, I feel. It just feels like jumping kind of intrudes on what Monkey Ball is all about.
Yeah.
And it can save you a lot of times too. Like, if you're going too fast, you can just jump and just sort of delay your speed in the air.
Totally.
I'm not behind this mechanic. I think there's a reason it didn't return in future games. and it still doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I would not miss jumping if it never returned in a future game in the series, which I hope there still are. I hope we do. I hope this, despite it being a remaster of, one of the lesser games in the series, I hope it does well enough that we do get a new Monkey Ball game, because I think this series still has a massive amount of untapped potential. But yes, I agree, jumping was not really necessary as its own separate mechanic, and if it doesn't come back, I won't be sad. I won't miss it at all. And it does make the game fundamentally different, as you said. It becomes less about precision rolling and momentum and more about, understanding the physics of the jump technique such that you can, again, stop yourself if you're going to, roll off the board, or just it becomes more about, or more anchored around that mechanic instead of the usual rolling and momentum-based skills that you would need in the first two games.
And it's just another way of making the game easier too. Like, there's no motion control, so you have more control. There's a jump button, so you have even more control over your momentum. The levels are easier. It's so different to what Monkey Ball was originally.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, obviously we've been pretty down on it so far. I do want to reiterate that, like, if you're not looking for something that's really going to test you in any meaningful way, or make your palms really sweaty, I do contend that Banana Blitz HD is still a great game to just chill out with. If you want something that's not going to push back too much, and you just want something that looks great and sounds great that you can just kind of zone out to, I do think this game fills that particular need very well.
Yeah, I mean, it scratches an itch. I've played every Monkey Ball game, and it's been a while since we had like, the last one. the last one was Banana Splits on the Vita in, like, 2012. It's been a long time now.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It could have been so much more, though. It could have been the first two games.
Exactly.
One thing the first two games did really well, actually, was outside of the main mode, they also had party games.
Right.
And all of those were really fun to play multiplayer-wise. Like, they're some of the best party games on the GameCube. And, like, Monkey Target in particular is just such a great game to play with others. And Banana Blitz on the Wii stepped away from that. Like, instead of having just a core focus on, like, 10 party games, Banana Blitz on the Wii had 50 party games. And none of them were particularly good. And I think a big reason for that was they were trying to, I guess, experiment with motion controls quite a lot, and it got in the way of just the quality and focus of each party game. Banana Blitz HD, though, actually cuts out 40 of those party games, so there are no longer 50, there are 10 now. And I think the idea was to sort of polish up 10 of the best party games in there, but in my opinion, they're more or less the same. I was playing Monkey Target on this thing, and it plays exactly like the Wii version did, which is just super disappointing.
That's too bad. I do have to defer more to you on this, because I actually haven't played any of the minigames in this version. I did play them back on the Wii version, of course, but I haven't really had time to dig into the minigames here in the HD version. But that is really, I mean, I'm glad they cut out a lot of the fat. It is great that they went from 50 to 10 of perhaps some of the better ones, but it sounds from what you're saying, not only did they not really doing any meaningful work in terms of making them play better here, they didn't necessarily pick the 10 best ones either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain about them cutting minigames, because they weren't worth playing anyway. They are, of course, all revolved around buttons now, rather than motion controls. And in fact, the game doesn't even support motion controls, which I was a bit, taken back about that. There might, like, at least be a gyro setting you could use, but there's nothing. You've got to use...
That seems like a weird thing to leave out.
Yeah, I mean, because the game was kind of designed around motion controls.
Yeah.
And, like, they have changed some things. I've noticed, like, the speed of certain objects are faster. But for the most part, it's more or less one-to-one the exact same game.
Right.
So it's kind of weird not to at least have this option for motion.
Right. I mean, that just seems like, it would have been nice to include for people who do want to kind of have that same experience you could have had on the original Wii, but maybe they weren't around to have at the time for whatever reason. So... yeah, this feels like it was a very quick, very kind of low effort release. It just, we need Monkey Ball and Switch. We need to, give some life into to this brand, because it hasn't had any for a long time. Let's remaster one of the lowest effort things we can do. And I'm not saying that ports don't take a lot of effort to release. Of course they do. There is no big red port game button. But it just doesn't feel as though they really dug in as much as they could have to really change, or remaster, I should say, the experience from the ground up. And more was just, they were more, okay with just making probably the minimal amount of changes they needed to.
I'm not convinced you could really make this into a great game. Banana Blitz, it's a fine game, it's enjoyable to an extent. It was never broken, is the thing. Like, I guess some could argue they didn't like the motion controls, and in that case, you might prefer this. but everything that made Banana Blitz is still intact. You would have to change the game a lot. If you changed it so much, it wouldn't even be Banana Blitz anymore. You may as well make a new Monkey Ball game. Because the problem is level design.
Exactly.
The problem is just in the root of what this game is.
Yeah, and again, like, we're not saying the level design's terrible, it's just not interesting or inspiring, especially if you've played the first two games. But, you know, of course, John, we're coming at this from the perspective of being longtime Monkey Ball fans. What do you think the experience would be for someone who's never even looked at a Monkey Ball game before, who maybe doesn't need those more aggressive level designs that maybe we're looking for?
See, that's tough. That's a tough position to come from. I think people might enjoy it. I have seen some comments saying that Banana Blitz was their first Wii game, because it was a Wii launch title.
Right.
And they'd never played the series before, which is understandable because the GameCube wasn't the best-selling platform. So I can see people finding some enjoyment, and you are right, like maybe Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are too high of a standard, and you're just sort of constantly comparing them to Banana Blitz. And yeah, that might be part of the problem. I just think there's such a gradual difficulty curve in this game that it can become a bit dull. It's not the worst the series has ever been, but it's certainly like a B-tier Monkey Ball game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Though I guess, you know, even a B-tier Monkey Ball game is, you know, probably more entertaining than some other games, right? You know, Monkey Ball's pretty reliable in general. So again, like, we've been pretty down on it, but I would not call Banana Blitz HD or the original one a bad game. It's just a very uninteresting game compared to its predecessors and doesn't necessarily leave you with any memory of it. It's not very memorable.
It's the Twilight Princess of Monkey Ball. I'm sure it's going to disappoint
I'm
some fans.
So glad you went there, because I was feeling the same way, but I didn't want to say it because I figured, oh man, that's going to make the comment section just focus completely on that. But hey, you went there, so I'll totally follow your lead there. I agree.
Well, on that note, that's a good place to end off. Alright,
nice.
So that is our thoughts on Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz. We will have a review out at the end of the month, and we'll of course show you more of the game, because it's not all bad, but it's just the basis of Monkey Ball Banana Blitz is exactly how it was on the Wii. But anyway, for more on Banana Blitz, stay tuned to Game Explain. We'll have way more videos in the future. And until then, thank you so much for watching, and of course be sure to subscribe to Game Explain for a lot more on Monkey Ball, and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye!